I want to take just a few minutes to talk a little bit about an item that's on the agenda this evening. We have a very tough issue to deal with before the City Council, and it's one that has not gone without deliberation and much thought and conversation. But it is something that we did not ask for, but it's something that we have been forced and positioned to deal with. And that is, how do we invest in our community? How do we make this really a new Montgomery? One that is beyond just a slogan or a few words, but really exists in the vein of people who feel disconnected from the progress that has been made in this city over the years and decades. There is not one specific way of doing that. It is usually a culmination of ideas and actions that are taken. Most of them not easy, most of them not simple, but most of them necessary indeed. And we're here this evening because there have been conversation around how to bring about more opportunity in this city, how to really bring together the coalition that helped elect 9 city councilmen and women, as well as myself in the most recent campaign, live up to the true value of progress, whether that's through public safety, whether that's through education, whether that's through economic opportunity, whether that's through health and wellness, and many other things that come before the council. None of these are issues that we all can say that we know there's a silver bullet solution to. But one thing we do know is that we can't get there by doing the same thing that we've been doing. We've tried that for much too long. And where we are is we're at a point where those of us in leadership have had to think about various ways. And we didn't go about it hastily. We didn't go about it in a nefarious fashion. We went about it in a transparent manner to bring in the public and to solicit ideas for creating this new Montgomery. We talked to those who know this city best, the great employees that we have, about what ideas and what initiatives we could implement, we could introduce in order to allow them to reach their full potential. Because often we ask them to do Superman's work only to give them Yosemite Sam's resources. It's kind of hard to do that when you ask someone to do something with their shoestrings tied and one arm tied behind their back to go run. And that's often what we've asked our citizens to deal with, and that's often what we've asked our employees to do as team members. And so we had some ideas before us, and one of those was concerning bringing in additional revenue. And that became somewhat of a touchy subject because everyone wants to see change, but very few people like the process of change. Many people want first-class services, but they want that on the coach-class budget. And for us, that's not good enough. We have decided that Montgomery cannot be all that it should be under our current constraints, that it cannot be the state government capital and remain the regional economic capital given where we are. And so I want to say that no mayor, no council seeks to inflict any pain on its citizens. We all seek to promote the best of our city and of our citizens. And we try to seek solutions and ideas that get us to that point. But as with anything, that sometimes means some sacrifice. And what we have on the agenda tonight is an opportunity to create this new Montgomery, but it's one that involves some sacrifice. It involves sacrifice of those who've been elected to be honest and forthright with the citizens of this community and to be leaders who don't lead with an ear to the ground and a finger to the wind, for that is an undignified position. It is one that asks for leaders to do what they are elected to do, and that is to lead, and that is to make decisions on the best interests of those who we all represent. Local control and self-determination is vital for cities responsible to their citizens for services. Legislators do not participate in the budget process for cities and aren't held responsible for providing services to city residents. The elected officials, those who you see here this evening, are held most accountable for any revenue-generating ideas. And that's why today we are here to discuss the prospects of an occupational tax. Some would see the word tax as a four-letter word. Some would also see ROI as a four-letter word. Because when you look at a tax or you look at a fee, it is designed in order for you to get something out of it. The question is, what do you get out of it, and what does it do for those who you're trying to get something out of it for? Montgomery has very modest revenue. It is 18th in revenue per capita, even though we are one of the top 4 cities in terms of population. It has not and will not overtax its residents. At the same time, many of the people who come to work in Montgomery use the roads, are protected by the police and fire in this city. The very police and fire and first responders we seek to give better salaries, better benefits, better retirement, better data and technology, and better manpower. The same first responders who we ask to put their lives on the line every day. That's who we seek to provide resources for. The sanitation workers, so that they can earn a livable wage and they can have dignity in their work. The same sanitation workers that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated for marching for in Memphis in 1968. We're here because we seek to improve our infrastructure so that you don't have to have the last name Reed in order to have high-speed broadband in your home. You don't have to live in East Montgomery in order to have a nice restaurant or nice community center near you. These are the things that we seek for those who live on roads that have not been repaved in decades. It is these issues. And so city leadership should be able, in theory, to pass a revenue measure that reflects what the people have elected us to decide. The taxes that a city can pass without approval from the legislature are limited to 2 things: sales and use and occupational taxes. 26 cities currently have occupational taxes. Several have occupational taxes 1.5 or twice as much as those that have been proposed this evening. Opelika at 1.5%, Gaston, Alabama at 2%. Birmingham and Auburn and Bessemer all have 1% and have taken advantage of these to improve their infrastructure and to improve their city services. Montgomery has only used one of these apparatuses over its 200-year history, and that is the sales tax, one that is regressive amongst poor people and penalizes people for paying the same thing that anyone of any wage would pay. We have one of the highest sales taxes in this state at 10%. No one has issued or initiated a bill to stop cities from increasing sales tax. This rate is high, and it takes the most from the people who are least able to afford it. Some may ask, well, what about property taxes? Well, you have to go through the legislature to increase the ad valorem taxes, and Montgomery's property taxes produces the least of all of its revenue sources, and we remain in the bottom of major cities as it relates to our ad valorem taxes. Recently, Huntsville, Alabama, a city that many of us point to for all of its progress and growth, landed a huge economic development project in Toyota Mazda. That city was able to land the project in part because they provided $100 million in cash as an incentive when the state refused to add any. Montgomery is not in a position to do that because of our reduced revenue opportunities. Montgomery has to be the economic development engine for the river region and all of central Alabama. And in order to do that, it needs the power to run its finances without seeking approval from the State House. I'm going to say this a different way. In order for Montgomery to be what it needs to be, we have to be able to do that without having to go to the State House to kiss rings or kiss butt. We cannot do that and be the city we need to be. The state is in position because delegators continue to kick issues and problems down the road, whether it's mental health, whether it's in addressing our prisons, whether it's in addressing our public education, or our crumbling infrastructure, or just simply making sure that you have more than one state trooper in a 13-county area that can help you if you have a flat tire after 6 p.m. at night. But these are the decision makers who believe they know what's best for Montgomery and how we should run this city. If we want Montgomery to improve its schools, create safety and security in our neighborhoods, and provide opportunities for all other citizens for the river region, we must have the ability of self-determination and local control. Home rule should be home rule. Montgomery is below average on spending on public safety, general government, public works, social and cultural areas, as well as debt service. We're at the very bottom, but yet we seek to allow people to tell us how we can get to the top. Everyone in this room knows that requiring a local legislation to get anything done in this community is almost impossible. That's why this state is in the position that it's in, because executive leadership is rarely exhibited in our state delegation and in our legislators. And so we stand here tonight not because we seek to be here, not because we seek to add a penny on every dollar to give to the government. We stand here because we are forced to do that. We stand here because we were sucker punched and we were sideswiped by legislators which did not respect this council, which did not respect the mayor, and most importantly, did not respect the will of the citizens who elected us to do the job that we need to do to solve the problems. And so you had a legislative body insert itself without any awareness, without any initiation of conversation or deliberation or negotiation to tell us what 26 other cities have done before that we cannot do, which is fund the services for the progress and growth of everyone who lives and calls Montgomery home. That to me is inexcusable. That to me is reckless. That to me is a danger and a crippling measure of power-hungry, arrogant legislators with the hubris to think that local people don't know how to solve local problems. And their legislative overreach into this body undermines our ability to move this city forward. And what I have come to understand over the last 2 weeks of negotiation and conversation is that there are many people who never want to progress. There are many people who don't want to see Montgomery grow. There are many people who don't want to see this state grow. They have self-centered interests and self-driven motives. They want our police to save them, but they won't do anything to help those police. They want our youth to save themselves, but they won't allow us to do anything to help those youth promote themselves. They want workforce development without investment in those adults and in that workforce. And it is because of that that we are here, because of a bill that was introduced without any conversation amongst any of the leadership that you see that will prevent us from funding this government at a level not above, not more than, just equal to many of the other cities that we are competing against for the betterment of our cities. And they did that, in a way that was undermining to our ability, in a way that was undermining to what we were elected to do. And it is because of that that we sit here, not because in the first 100 days, any mayor or any council wants to levy any type of fee on any business or any individual. But we sit here because we have been left with no choice. We have had our pockets picked, and we have been told by the robber that we should just be glad that they didn't rob our house. And so I stand here as the mayor, one who's been elected countywide, one who's been elected citywide, one who enjoyed a multiracial, multicultural, multi-generational mandate from this city to bring about change and to bring about opportunity, to encourage this city council not to vote for a fee, not to vote for a tax, but to vote for local governance, to vote for home rule, to vote for local decision making, to vote for the flexibility to make the decisions that the people in your districts elected you to make, to vote for the independence to make the decisions at the local level where we know what's best for all of those that live here and that work here and that play here of how to best move this ship we call Montgomery forward. And I encourage you to support local governance in this vote, because it's not a vote that we asked for. It's not a vote that we wish to bring upon the citizens of this community. It's a vote that we were forced to. It's a vote that we've been boxed into by the state legislators without being given any choice, without being given any options, and being shown that there is no area for them to work with us, to negotiate with us, or to do anything that may involve conversation and deliberation over these next few weeks and months to figure out a better alternative. And being forced with the timeline that they have given us, I encourage this city council to do what's in the best interest of the people in this city and what we've been elected to do, and that is represent ourselves so that we can make sure a new Montgomery is not just a tagline, it's not just a phrase or a motto, but it is truly something that means life and liberty and freedom to those that live here and those that work here. History will remember the courageous. The cowards will be forgotten. Thank you.